Welcome, everyone, to today's story. Imagine sitting at the airport, waiting to board a flight for a business trip. You open your phone to check your smart home camera, only to find the screen pitch black. You immediately rush back home, only to find your husband trembling, blocking the door to your master bedroom. It was a humid, late afternoon in Chicago, the sky heavy with clouds outside my West Loop condo. Traffic was gridlocked after a long workday, but my mind was racing faster than the cars below. My name is Lauren Davis. I'm 36 years old and work as a lead content producer at a media agency. My husband, Victor Vance, is 3 years older and works in commercial furniture sales. Outsiders always praised him for being gentle and soft-spoken. My mom once told me, Victor might not be the loudest guy in the room, but he's got a good heart, Lauren. A man doesn't need to be a smooth talker as long as he knows how to love his wife. I believed that for nearly 10 years. When we first got married, we rented a cramped apartment in Rogers Park. The place was tiny, and the stove was practically right next to the bathroom door. Every time I tried to sear a steak, the smoke alarm would go off. Victor would stand on a chair, fanning the quote detector with a towel and laughing, "Babe, the neighbors are going to think we're running a BBQ joint out of here." I'd glare at him, but I was happy. We were broke, but it was that specific kind of broke where you still find joy in giving each other the last bite of a good meal. There were months when money was tight, and I'd make cheap ramen and boil a Palzer single egg to share. I'd scoop the yolk into his bowl, he'd scoop it right back into mine. "You eat it, you've got a long day tomorrow," he'd say with a goofy smile. "I'm a guy, I can survive on tap water in spite." I told him to stop being dramatic, but I loved him deeply. I used to think that if a couple could love each other when they were poor, then nothing could tear them apart once. They made it. Buying a condo later on was our ultimate dream. My parents, who live in upstate New York, sold a piece of family land and pooled the money to help me with the down payment. My dad, David, is a man of few words. That day, he slowly handed me the check and said, "This is for you, Lauren. It's great that you and Victor love each other, but when it comes to real estate and money, boundaries are important." I listened, but my heart was so full of naive happiness that I just brushed it off with a smile. I thought my dad was just getting old and overly cautious. Victor stood next to me, holding my hand tightly, and said, "Don't worry, David, Susan. As long as I have breath in my lungs, I'll take care of Lauren." My mom teared up, and the heart melted. I truly believed in the concept of what's mine is yours. Once you're married, why divide things up on a piece of paper? Because of that, I agreed to put both our names on the deed. Victor hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for trusting me." I replied naturally, "If I don't trust you, who else would I trust?" Looking back, I realized that trust is like a key. Give it to the right person, and it opens the door to a home. Give it to the wrong person, and it unlocks the door to a hurricane. When we first moved into the condo, we didn't have much extra cash. Victor assembled some cheap kitchen shelves himself, and they were so crooked that the planes and Eccles unendling sugar jar would slowly slide to one side. I teased him, "You work in commercial furniture, and you install our shelves like the Leaning Tower of Pisa?" He just scratched his head and laughed. Those silly jokes made the place feel like a home. That was also when we found Peanut, a scrawny ginger cat meowing his head off in the parking garage. Victor was the first to pick him up. "Can we keep him?" "The house could use a mascot," I laughed. "Only if you clean the litter box," I bargained. He patted his chest. "Done. Easy." Of course, I ended up being the one cleaning the litter box most of the time. But the apartment was filled with the sound of a cat running around, my husband opening the front door, and the microwave beeping. It felt complete. My mother-in-law, Barbara, came up to visit for the first time, took one lap around the condo, and smiled. A daughter-in-law who knows how to budget is a blessing to this family. Victor is lucky, and I'm proud. I smiled politely. She nodded and added, "A smart woman knows how to keep her home. A man works hard. Out in the real world, when he comes home, he needs a hot meal and peace and quiet. That's how you keep a marriage intact." At the time, I just thought she was being old-fashioned. I didn't realize her words were a mold. And one day, when I stepped out of that mold, I would become the unreasonable woman in her eyes. For the first few years in that condo, I really thought my life had settled into a peaceful rhythm. In the morning, I went to work. Victor drove out of the Kofting garage. In the evening, he'd pick up takeout or my favorite apple pastry on his way home. Peanut would sunbathe by the window. I believed home was the safest place in the world. I believed the person lying next to me every night was the last person who could ever hurt me. But the wind doesn't stop just because the tree wants peace. And sometimes, the most destructive winds blow from within the hearts of the people inside your own house. That condo didn't just appear out of thin air. It wasn't handed to us. And it wasn't built on a few motivational quotes. It was bought with my parents' sweat. With the months I worked overtime until my eyes blurred, telling myself to push just a little harder so we'd have a place to call our own. My dad had a piece of land in upstate New York. It wasn't massive, but it was what my grandparents left him. It had a few old apple trees and overgrown grass. In the summer, when I was little, I used to run barefoot out there until the streetlights came on. Yet, when I mentioned wanting to buy a condo, my parents quietly agreed to sell a portion of it. I remember the day my dad called me back home. We were sitting around the dinner table eating Mom's pot roast. Dad didn't say it immediately. He just kept passing me the sides, while my mom kept looking at me with red eyes. I put my fork down. "What's going on, guys?" My dad sighed. "Your mother and I are selling the back lot. We're giving you the money to help close on your condo." I panicked. "No, Dad, you can't. That's your land." He spoke in his slow, gravelly voice. "We were keeping it for you anyway. You need it now, so we'll sell it. As long as you have a solid roof over your head, your mother and I can rest easy." I choked up. Victor, sitting next to me, looked visibly moved. He stood up, poured Dad a glass of water, and said, "I am so grateful for what you're doing. I promise you, I will never let Lauren struggle." My dad looked at Victor for a long time. It was the deep, unreadable look of an experienced man. "I don't need big promises, Victor. I just need you to do right by her. I don't worry about you two being poor. I worry about people forgetting. Who helped them when they finally get rich?" Victor nodded repeatedly. "My parents wired over $50,000. My hands shook looking at my banking app. It wasn't just money, it was my parents' legacy." I told Victor. "This money is from my parents for me, but I want to use it for our down payment. This home is for both of us." He held my hands, his eyes welling up. "You trust me that much? I will never let you down." I trusted him. So much so that when the title agent asked whose name would be on the deed, I didn't hesitate. Both of us. Victor looked at me like I had just handed him the world. He whispered, "I'll make this up to you. When I get my big promotion, I'll take care of everything." I laughed. "We're married. We don't keep score." Looking back, I was so incredibly naive. But at that moment, I genuinely believed the man who ate cheap ramen with me would never calculate his way behind my back. When Barbara found out the condo was in both names, she was thrilled. She called me, her voice dripping with honey. "You did the right thing, Lauren. A married couple is one entity. If Victor's name is on the house, he'll feel more responsible." I politely agreed. She added, "Your parents really blessed you, but it ended up helping Victor's family too. You're a good girl." I felt a slight sting but brushed it off. I thought my mother-in-law was just happy for her son. People say talk is cheap, but some words cost you everything, namely, your tolerance. From the day we moved in, the mortgage was around $2,500 a month. My salary was steadier, and my project bonuses were good, so the bulk of the payments came from my account. Victor contributed, but it fluctuated. Once, I gently reminded him, "Hey, can you transfer your half a bit early this month? Autopay hits tomorrow." He paused his meal, giving a forced smile. "Yeah, I remember. My clients are paying late this quarter. Can you cover it first? I'll make it up next month." I looked at him and felt more sympathy than anger. "It's fine, don't stress." He sighed. "I'm the husband. Letting you carry the weight makes me feel like a loser." I put my hand over his. "What are you talking about? It's our house. Whoever has it pays. Don't think like that." Those exact words would later turn into needles stabbing me in the back. Because I had erased the boundaries so many times, allowing others to cross them, thinking it was out of love. It wasn't just the mortgage. I often carried the financial weight for his side of the family too. Victor's sister, Natalie, was married with kids, but a few months she'd call, "Lauren, can you spot me some cash? The kids have school. These and things are super tight." Sometimes it was $300, sometimes $500. Once it was $1,000. I asked Victor about it, and he just sighed. Natalie struggles. "If you can help, just do it. Consider it a favor to my mom." I sent the money without asking for it back. When Barbara found out, she said, "Siblings helping each other is a blessing. I'm glad you're so generous." Over time, my generosity became an expectation. Paying the mortgage made me a good budgeter. Helping my sister-in-law made me understanding. Buying my mother-in-law her expensive supplements meant I was respectful. But if I was exhausted and complained, I was hit with, "Women always have it hard. You have a house and a husband, you're doing better than most." One night, I was sitting at the dining table checking our bank statements. The mortgage had just been deducted. Peanut jumped onto the chair, nudging my arm. Victor walked up behind me and set down a mug of tea. "Drink this." "Why do you look so stressed?" I smiled. "Just doing the math. It's a bit tight this month." He sat next to me. "Hang in there. Give me a couple of years to climb the frozen ladder, and I'll take care of you. Just trust me." I looked at our dual signatures on the condo paperwork file and softened. "I trust you." That night, I locked the paperwork away in the filing cabinet. I thought I was guarding the documents to our sanctuary. I never imagined those same papers would become the reason I'd have to grab my bags and run from the very place I thought was safe. For a while after moving in, I thought my life was on a straight path. Work in the morning, cook dinner at night. On weekends, we'd clean the apartment, give Peanut a bath, and watch Netflix. A normal, slightly boring life, but to me, it was a blessing. Then, Victor started to change. At first, it was small things. He came home later. His shirt smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, even though he rarely smoked. One night, he walked in at 10 p.m., looking exhausted, holding a cold cup of coffee. I looked out from the kitchen. "Did you eat? I saved you some dinner." He kicked off his shoes and gave a dismissive answer. "I ate with a client. Go to sleep. Don't wait up." I looked at the untouched plate on the table and my heart skipped a beat. Before, no matter how busy he was, Victor would always text me. He used to say making his wife wait for dinner was a cardinal sin. Now, he forgot so effortlessly. His phone also started living face down on the table. During dinner, while watching TV, even in the bathroom, his phone was his shadow. I joked once, "Do you sell office furniture, or are you an ER doctor? You never put that phone down." He flinched, then laughed awkwardly. "Clients are demanding these days. You have to reply instantly or you lose the account." I didn't push it. People say a smart wife knows when to keep quiet. But honestly, sometimes a wife stays quiet, not because she believes the lie, but because she wants to keep the peace. One evening, while I was out on the balcony watering plants, I heard Victor on the phone in the living room. His voice was low but tense. "I know. Just give me a few more days. No, do not call the house." I said, "Do not call my house." I froze. Peanut brushed against my legs and meowed. Victor immediately dropped his voice. When I walked back inside, he had hung up. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just a difficult client, pushing for a quote." I looked at him. He avoided my gaze and chugged a glass of water. "You sounded pretty aggressive for talking to a client," I noted. Victor set the glass down, visibly annoyed. "You work in media. You know clients aren't always sweet. I'm exhausted. Can you stop interrogating me?" That silenced me. Not because I was wrong, but because I was afraid of becoming the nagging wife. Women are strange creatures. We get hurt, and then wonder if we're being too unreasonable. Our capacity for self-blame is truly astonishing. After that day, Victor started talking a lot about starting a side hustle. He said working for a salary would never make us rich. A man nearing 40 without a breakthrough was embarrassing. One dinner, he said, "I'm thinking of investing with some buddies to open a craft brewery. The market is booming. I asked, how much capital? Is it safe? He frowned. If everything was safe, everyone would be rich. You're always so afraid of risk. I kept my voice soft. I'm not stopping you, but we have a mortgage. If you do, plan carefully. Don't take out any shady loans. Victor dropped his fork and laughed bitterly. You're so good at math. It just highlights how useless I am. I was stunned. I didn't mean that at all. He rubbed his face and sighed. I'm sorry. I'm just under a lot of pressure. I softened again. I thought his ego was just bruised because my income was more stable. I thought men go through phases, and a wife just needs to be patient. Back then, I was systematically convincing myself to be forgiving. I practically had an Excel spreadsheet for my own empathy. I didn't know that when he said, pressure, the debt had already snowballed. Victor had invested in that brewery with 2 friends. They painted a beautiful picture, packed crowds, fast profits, recouping the investment in months. But the economy shifted, the place was empty, rent still had to be paid, and staff needed their checks. Before he could recover, another friend told him to throw money into options trading to win it back. He didn't win it back. He drowned. One debt covered another. Loans from friends, cash advances, blown commissions, and shady high-interest private loans combined into a massive $50,000 hole. A number that won't kill you, but is enough to make a prideful man lose sleep every night. He didn't tell me. He still wore his crisp button-downs to work, still smiled at the neighbors in the elevator, still bought me coffee on Monday mornings. But there was something shifty in his eyes, like a man hiding a lit match in his pocket, terrified of catching fire. One day, my mother-in-law called. Barbara usually called at night to complain about her back or gossip about the neighbors. But this time, she asked a strange question. Lauren, is Victor strapped for cash lately? I was folding laundry and paused. Why do you ask? She stayed quiet for a few seconds, then forced a laugh. No reason, he just hasn't called much, so I worried work was tough. Did he tell you something, Barbara? No. He works under a lot of stress, so you should be gentle with him at home. Men go out and make money, and sometimes they don't want their wives to. I know how hard it is. I agreed, but I felt uneasy. Her words sounded like advice, but felt like a cover-up. That night, I asked Victor, are you hiding any financial issues from me? He was looking at his phone and immediately locked the screen. Who told you that? Seeing that reaction, my heart grew a little colder. Nobody. I'm just asking. He stood up and walked to the balcony, sounding irritated. I'm exhausted. Enough. If I have to come home to be suspected of things, how am I supposed to? I breathe? I followed him and watched him light a cigarette. The smoke drifted up, into the amber balcony light, blurring his face. I stood behind him, just a few feet away, yet he felt miles distant. I used to think a couple sharing a bed couldn't have massive secrets. It turns out, a person can lie right next to you, completely locked away behind a different passcode. And when a man starts leaving his phone face down, what's being hidden isn't just a screen, it's the truth. Mia Harper appeared at Victor's company on a Monday morning. Victor was managing the commercial office accounts, and Mia was a new intern assigned to his team. The first time he mentioned her, I was washing vegetables in the kitchen. I got a new intern in my department. Sharp girl, speaks really well, he said, casually. How old? I asked idly. 24. Fresh out of college, eager to learn. I smiled. Well, make sure you actually mentor her. Don't walk around looking like a strict debt collector. You'll scare the kids. Victor laughed. I'm a nice guy. Everyone says I'm easygoing. I looked back at him, easygoing with strangers. You're stubborn as hell with me. He walked over, put his arm around my shoulders, and joked, you have to be tough with your wife, or she'll walk all over you. I pushed him away playfully. Back then, it was just a joke. Looking back, I realized that when men joke, there is often a slice of truth we just don't want to hear. Mia was clever in the way she knew exactly how to touch the places where others felt insecure. She wasn't stunningly beautiful, but she had these big doe eyes that always looked slightly vulnerable. Her soft voice and texting style made a deeply insecure man feel incredibly important. At first, her texts were just about work, I accidentally saw a notification on his lock screen once. Victor, does this quote look okay? Can you show me how to present this to the client? I don't want to mess up your account. A few days later, the tone shifted. Thank God you guided me, or I would have quit. By now. No one at this company has your vision, Victor. I saw it, but I didn't. Overthink it. A young intern flattering her boss is corporate survival 101. If everyone was ice cold at the office, it would be a morgue. But Victor didn't brush it off like I did. Those compliments hit right when he was drowning in debt and feeling worthless. At home, I was telling him to be careful and not take out shady loans. At work, Mia was telling him he was a visionary being held back. One night, Victor came home smelling faintly of bourbon. I handed him a glass of water. He sat on the couch, stared at me for a long time, and said, "Do you ever think I'm a failure?" I was taken aback. Why would you ask that? Just answer me. I set the glass down. I have never thought that. I just worry you'll rush into things and stress yourself out more. Victor smiled bitterly. But in your eyes, I always need to be reminded to be careful, to be cautious, to not borrow, to not take risks. Do you know how small a man feels when he hears that every day? I stayed silent for a second. I say it because I care about our future. He didn't reply. He took his phone and locked himself in the bathroom for a long time. Later, I found out that exact night, Mia had texted him. It's a tragedy. When a talented man is afraid to spread his wings just because his wife might get upset. A sentence that sounded like empathy, but was actually a lit match. Mia told Victor a sob story about her family being in debt, her dad being sick, and her having to work early to support herself. She didn't tell it all at once. She dripped it slowly. One day, it was her landlord demanding rent. The next, her brother's tuition, then an ex-boyfriend who scammed her. Victor listened and felt pity. And when a man starts feeling pity for a woman who isn't his wife, he often grants himself permission to play the hero. One afternoon, Mia asked Victor for a ride to meet someone who could help her secure a personal loan. That man was Tyler Reed. Victor had told me he was meeting a major corporate client in the Loop. In reality, he and Mia were sitting in an upscale, air-conditioned coffee shop meeting Tyler. The kind of place with plush chairs and dim lighting, where people speak softly so as not to scare the money away. Tyler was in his 40s, wearing a crisp white shirt and a flashy watch, always smiling. He shook Victor's hand firmly. Victor, right? Mia's told me a lot about you. It's a shame a guy like you is strapped for capital. Victor asked, Do you work for a bank? Tyler smiled. Not exactly. I'm a private financial consultant. I connect capital to those who need it. Simply put, I make the paperwork look pretty and move fast. Mia sat next to Victor, pouring him some water, her voice soft. I feel like Victor has so much potential, Tyler. He just needs a little push. Tyler nodded. Exactly. Men who want to make it big have to seize the moment. I've met a lot of guys. The only difference is who has the guts to take the leap. Victor sat in silence, every word stroking the swollen, bruised ego inside him. Tyler asked, Do you have any assets, Victor? Victor mentioned the condo in the Percent. Westloop, heavily mortgaged, but with both our names on the deed. Tyler's eyes lit up. That condo has great equity. If we do this right, you could pull out a HELOC for over $100,000. Pay off your old debts, use the rest for capital, and in a few months when your investments hit, you pay it back. Your wife won't even have a reason to be mad. Victor frowned. The deed is in my wife's name too. She'd never agree. Mia glanced at Victor with a tiny smirk. Women are always so afraid of risk. But sometimes you just have to get it done and show them the results. Then they respect you. Tyler jumped in. Nobody is telling you to do anything illegal. We prepare the file first. Deed copy, IDs of both spouses, original mortgage docs, bank, statements, sample signatures. If you get all that, I'll build the profile. Then, you find the right moment, sit down with your wife, have her sign a power of attorney, and it's done. Victor still hesitated. She's very meticulous. Tyler laughed. If she's meticulous, we prepare meticulously. Besides, you're married. It's community property. You have the right to leverage it for business. Those two words have the right were the hook Victor swallowed whole, without realizing. From the day he met Tyler, Victor started paying attention to where I kept our important documents. Once, he asked, "Hey Lauren, which drawer did you put the condo paperwork in? I want to double check our interest rate." I was chopping fruit and answered, "In the office filing cabinet. If you need it, I can grab it later." He spoke quickly. "No, it's fine, I'll find it. Keep doing what you're doing." I looked up, and he avoided my eyes. Another night, he asked me to sign an internal company verification form for a new employee financing program. I picked it up and saw it was incredibly vague, with no clear letterhead. "What is this for exactly?" I asked. He looked annoyed. "You read into everything too much. It's just an internal form." I put my pen down. "If it's not clear, I'm not signing it. If you need something, have HR email me officially." He looked at me, his lips pressed into a thin line, then snatched the paper and crumpled it slightly. "Forget it. I knew you'd be difficult." I thought he was just being defensive about his job. I had no idea that behind that crumpled piece of paper was a massive loan application being built in the shadows. That night, while I sat in the living room brushing Peanut, Victor stayed in the home office for a long time. Light spilled through the crack in the door, and I heard the faint click-clack of drawer tracks opening and closing. "What are you looking for?" I called out. "Nothing, just looking for my old phone charger," he yelled back. Peanut suddenly lifted his head, staring at the office door, his tail flicking. "They say pets can sense bad energy before humans do." At the time, I just patted his head and laughed. "You're such a nosy cat." I had no idea that just a few steps away, Victor was digging through our files, hunting for the paperwork to the home I thought was our sanctuary. My business trip to Denver was only supposed to be 2 days. My agency was doing a PR campaign for a ski resort, and I had to fly out to meet the clients and scout locations. The schedule wasn't crazy, so the night before, I took my time, packing, tossing in a light jacket because it gets chilly in the mountains at night. Victor came home earlier than usual that day. He bought me an iced tea, explicitly asking for light ice because he knew I had a sensitive throat. "What time is your flight tomorrow?" "Dep entry says AM. We'll leave for O'Hare at 6:30. That should be perfect." He nodded, dragging my suitcase out to the center of the living room. "Let me check the wheels." Last time it sounded a bit squeaky. Watching him, I felt my heart soften. Lately, he had been irritable and distant. Yet that night, he was surprisingly tender. I figured he knew he'd been distant and wanted to make up for it. Women have a fatal flaw. If someone treats us kindly for just a second, our brains automatically invent excuses to forgive their past behavior. That soft software in our heads desperately needs a security patch. While Victor was in the shower, I grabbed his jacket to hang it up. A small, crumpled receipt fell out of the pocket. I bent down to toss it, but my eyes caught the text. Gold-colored silk bedsheet set. $400. I stood frozen. We didn't need new sheets. I also hate the color gold. It looks tacky. Victor had never, not once, bought bedroom decor on his own, let alone something that expensive. I looked toward the bathroom door, hearing the water running, a cold ripple spreading through my chest. Victor walked out, saw the receipt in my hand, and froze. "What's this?" I asked. He towel-dried his hair, smiling a bit too fast. "Oh, I was going to replace our old ones. Saw they were on sale. On sale for $400? He walked over and smoothly pulled the receipt from my fingers, his voice deliberately light. "They're high quality. I wanted you to come back from your trip to a brand new bedroom. Our anniversary is coming up. Wanted to change the page in vibe." I looked at him. A part of me felt something was deeply wrong, but another part desperately wanted to believe him. Our anniversary was approaching. For a wife, accustomed to gaslighting herself, that explanation was just enough to fold my suspicions and shove them into the back of my mind. I smiled faintly. "Well, make sure the color isn't too blinding. Our place isn't the Ritz-Carlton." Victor chuckled. I know. You're a tough critic." I slept terribly that night. Peanut curled up at the foot of the bed, occasionally kneading the blanket. Victor slept facing away from me, his phone placed face down on the nightstand. Once, the screen lit up, and he immediately reached out and silenced it in the dark. I stared at the ceiling, telling myself it was just a work email. The next morning, Victor woke up early. He made me coffee and warmed up a bagel. Eat something before you get to the airport so your stomach doesn't act up. I took a bite and joked, "You're being awfully attentive today. What's your evil plan?" He looked at me, a brief flash of panic in his eyes, before he laughed. "My plan is for you to have a great trip. Is that a crime?" The drive to O'Hare on the Kennedy Expressway was packed but moving. Victor drove, occasionally asking if I packed my chargers, my ID, my ibuprofen. He was so incredibly caring that I felt simultaneously warmed and deeply unsettled. Before getting out at the terminal, he grabbed my suitcase from the trunk and hugged me lightly. "Have a safe flight. Lock your hotel door at night." I nodded. "Make sure you feed Peanut on time. Don't just dump the bowl full. He'll gorge himself." He snorted. "I know. You treat that cat better than me." I laughed along. I didn't know that joke would be the last time I ever smiled at him with pure innocence. After checking in, I sat at my gate. My pre-flight ritual was always to open my phone and check the smart camera to look at Peanut. He had a habit of jumping on the dining table and knocking over my plants, so I had set up a camera in the living room and one facing the balcony. I opened the app and clicked on the living room feed. The screen was pitch black. I thought the airport Wi-Fi was weak, so I disconnected and reloaded. Still black. The app said the device was online, but there was no visual. I switched to the balcony camera. Also black. My heart started beating faster. If the power was out, the system would say offline. If the internet dropped, it would say disconnected. But the weird thing was, the smart thermostat and locks were showing up perfectly normal. Right at that moment, a push notification popped up on my screen. Master bedroom. Smoke detector. Manually disabled. I sat bolt upright. That detector was hardwired into the ceiling. No one touches it. To disable it, you either have to go deep into the admin settings or physically twist it off the mount. I called Victor. It rang and rang until it hit voicemail. I called a second time. This time, it rang once and went straight to voicemail. He declined the call. A freezing sensation shot down my spine. I remembered the receipt for the $400 gold sheets. I remembered his panicked eyes when I held it. I remembered the phone constantly face down. All these tiny puzzle pieces suddenly snapped into a horrific, ugly picture. I took a deep breath and opened the contact list for Victor's company. I called Sarah, their HR and payroll manager, who I had worked with briefly on a cross-agency project. "Hey, Sarah, it's Lauren, Victor's wife." Her voice was bright. "Oh, hey, Lauren. What's up?" "Hey, I was going to send some lunch over to Victor's office. Do you know if he's in today?" The line went quiet for a second. "Oh." Victor took the day off, Lauren. My hand gripped the phone tight. "He did?" "Yeah. He texted me this morning saying he had to take you to the hospital for a sudden illness and took PTO for the day. Are you okay?" I looked out the giant airport windows. Outside, planes were taxiing slowly across the tarmac. People were walking past me with rolling bags. The intercom chimed, announcing a boarding group. Everything was so normal, but my ears felt like they had been stuffed with cotton. My throat was bone dry. "Yeah, I must have mixed up his schedule. Thanks, Sarah." I hung up and sat completely paralyzed. I was sitting at O'Hare Airport about to fly to Denver. My husband had just lied to his company, saying he was taking me to the hospital. The cameras inside my condo were blacked out. The smoke alarm was disabled. The new bed sheets. It wasn't paranoia. The intercom blared, calling my boarding group. I stood up, but I didn't walk toward the gate. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase, turned around, and marched straight to the customer service desk. "I need to cancel my ticket and pull my checked bag." The agent looked shocked. "Ma'am, your flight is boarding right now. Are you sure?" I nodded. "I'm sure." While waiting for them to retrieve my bag, I opened the Ring doorbell app. That camera runs on a separate battery system. Victor rarely paid attention to it, because it only records the hallway. I pulled up the most recent motion event. The video loaded. A woman wearing a light blue floral sundress, oversized, sunglasses, and carrying a cream-colored tote bag stood in front of my door. She pulled her sunglasses down and punched in the keypad code with practiced ease. The timestamp read 11:30 a.m. I couldn't hear my own heartbeat anymore. My fingers were ice cold against the glass screen. The door to my home swung open, and a strange woman walked in, exactly like it was her own house. I scrubbed the video back and watched it again. She stood there for less than 10 seconds. She wasn't fumbling. She didn't look around nervously like a guest. She knew exactly how to angle herself away from the peephole to punch the code. She knew you had to pull the handle slightly towards you to get our sticky deadbolt to pop. She even looked down and blocked Peanut with her foot to stop him from running into the hallway, just like someone who knew the cat lived. There. That one single movement blocking the cat shattered me. Peanut was the stray I rescued from the parking garage. Now, another woman knew exactly how to keep him inside the condo I bought with my parents' money and my own blood, sweat, and tears. I called Victor again, not to ask, but to test him. The phone rang, then went to voicemail. I laughed a dry, hollow laugh. Busy. Yeah, he really was busy. Busy. Playing husband to someone else in my own bed. I walked out to the rideshare pickup zone and got into an Uber. Hey, when we get to my building, can you pull straight down into the resident parking garage? Don't drop me at the front lobby. The driver looked in the rearview mirror. You got a lot of bags? The lobby is easier. Please, just go down to the garage. I didn't want the Bluetooth lobby fob to ping Victor's phone with a resident arrival notification. If he got a warning, everything would be cleaned up before I reached the front door. The Uber pulled onto my street. The building loomed ahead, looking exactly as it always did. My balcony on the 8th floor had my little potted plants. Buildings are so much better at keeping secrets than humans are. I got out in the Ronan underground garage, the air heavy with the smell of exhaust and damp concrete. Bob, the building concierge, was doing a patrol near the elevators. He saw me and stopped. Lauren, didn't you say you were out of town till Thursday? I tried to keep my face neutral. Yeah, plans changed. Hey Bob, I'm just going. Straight up. Bob looked at me for a few seconds. I must have looked like a ghost because he didn't press. He just nodded. All right, let me know if you need anything. Thanks, Bob. I stood alone in the elevator. The floor numbers ticked up. Floor 5, floor 6, floor 7, floor 8. Every ding felt like a hammer to my chest. I dug into my purse and pulled out the physical backup key. Normally I use the electronic keypad, but the keypad beeps loudly and sends a push notification. I didn't want to announce my arrival. The hallway was dead silent. My door was at the end of the hall. On the gray, "Welcome, Matt," I could still see the faint track marks from my suitcase rolling over it earlier that morning. A sickeningly sweet, heavy perfume smell lingered near the door frame. I slid the key in. 1 turn, 2 turns. The deadbolt clicked softly. I pushed. The door open. Peanut didn't run out to greet me like he usually did. That made my blood run colder than anything else. I pulled my suitcase inside and shut the door silently behind me. Victor's loafers were kicked off haphazardly in the entryway. Next to them was a pair of beige, strappy stilettos, size 6. On the console table, the oversized sunglasses sat right next to my husband's car keys. From down the hall, the AC was humming quietly. The living room curtains were drawn completely shut, even though it was the middle of the day. The camera in. The corner had its power cord yanked out of the wall. The balcony camera was physically turned around to face the drywall, like an eye forced to look away. I parked my suitcase against the wall, pulled out my old backup iPhone from my bag, and hit record on the video app. Not because I felt brave, my fingertips were completely numb. But I knew that if I only cried today, tomorrow I would have nothing left but my own tears. I took slow steps toward the master bedroom. The door was cracked open. From inside, I heard a faint rustling, like someone hastily pulling up a blanket. Then, Victor's voice, low and panicked. "Who's out there?" I pushed the door wide open. Victor was standing frozen next to the bed. He had thrown on a t-shirt, the collar twisted, his hair a mess, his face completely drained of blood. He looked at me like he was staring at the Grim Reaper. "Lauren." "What?" "Why are you home?" I looked at him, then looked at the room behind him. The stench of cheap, cloying perfume was suffocating, and there on the bed I bought were the $400, gold-colored silk sheets, wrinkled and chaotic under the warm lamplight. I didn't answer. I took one step into the room. Victor immediately lunged forward, blocking my path. Babe, let me explain. The room is a mess. Go wait in. The living room. Let me explain. I stared at his hand, which was gripping the edge of the sliding closet door so hard his knuckles were white. I spoke slowly, enunciating every syllable. Move. He stood his ground, spreading his arms, as if his body could somehow erase what was happening behind him. He was sweating. Lauren, calm down. Let's just talk. I looked down at the floor. One beige stiletto was tipped over near the nightstand. The other was kicked near the curtains. On top of my vanity, sitting right on my makeup bag, was a sheer white cardigan. Next to the glass of water, on the nightstand was a bright red lipstick stain. I let out a dry, hollow laugh. Talk? About the business meeting you're hosting. Honor maîtresse? Victor flinched. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. Not aggressively, but desperately. I messed up. But don't make a scene. The neighbors will hear. It'll be humiliating. I stared at the hand holding my wrist. The hand that used to carry my groceries. The hand that held mine when I had a fever. The hand that signed the mortgage. Papers with me. Now, it was pulling me back to protect something filthy in my own home. I yanked my arm away. Humiliating? You bring a woman into our house? Onto our bed? And you're worried about the neighbors? Victor dropped his voice to a whisper, pleading. I was wrong. I know I was. Wrong. Just forgive me this once. It's not what you think. I stepped past him. The gold sheets were ruined, stained with the reality of his betrayal. The receipt wasn't for an anniversary surprise. It was the stage dressing for his affair. In that moment, I felt a deep, burning humiliation. Not just because my husband was cheating on me, but because I had actually convinced myself he was trying to do something sweet for me. Love is blind as an ennebre. Understatement. I had willfully gouged my own eyes out. I walked around the bed. Victor followed me like a frantic dog, babbling. Lauren, put the phone down. Stop recording, please. I'm begging you. I didn't respond. The camera captured the sheets, the cardigan, the stilettos, the lipstick stain, and the unplugged camera cord on the floor. Suddenly, a faint thump came from inside the sliding closet, like a knee knocking against the wood from someone trying to hold their breath. I turned my head. Victor immediately plastered his back against the closet door. There's nothing in there. I looked him dead in the eyes. Then what are you afraid of? He stuttered. I just don't want to make things worse. I stepped forward. Victor raised an arm to block me, but I shoved it away. Hard. Not a punch, but a strike fueled by pure adrenaline, letting him know I was no longer the wife who would quietly listen to his excuses. I grabbed the handle and yanked the sliding door open. For a split second, I prayed I was crazy. I prayed it was just a pile of laundry. I prayed everything from the airport to this moment was a psychotic break. But reality is rarely kind. Mia Harper was huddled in the corner of my closet, wedged between Victor's suits. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her cream-colored tote bag. Her hair was a rat's nest, her face chalk white, the straps of her blue floral dress slipping off her shoulders. The oversized sunglasses lay by her bare feet. She looked up at me, her lips trembling. Lauren. I didn't react immediately. I just looked at her. She had the kind of youth that, I knows it's young. If I passed her on the street, I'd forget her in 5 minutes. Yet here she was, crouching in my closet amidst the stench of betrayal. Victor fell to his knees. Lauren, please. It was a one-time thing. I don't love. Her! She initiated it. I was weak, I was stressed, I couldn't control myself. Mia's head whipped toward him. The fear on her face shattered, instantly, replaced by vicious anger. Victor! Are you kidding me right now? Victor hissed, shut up. I looked at the two of them, my husband and his mistress, standing in my bedroom, fighting over who was less to blame in a completely indefensible situation. It was almost comical. When backed into a corner, their grand romance couldn't even survive the space of a walk-in closet. Mia stood up, awkwardly pulling her dress straight. She bent down to pick up her shoes, her hands shaking so badly she dropped one. I finally spoke. Put your clothes on properly. I'm not going to hit you. She froze and looked up at me. She was probably expecting a screaming match, a hair-pulling brawl so she could play the victim. I refused to give her that. Satisfaction. Victor was still on his knees, holding onto the hem of my jeans. Forgive me. 10 years, Lauren. I'll fix this. I'll do whatever you want. I looked down at him. Fix it how? By washing the sheets and pretending no one was on them? He choked on his words. Mia had regained a sliver of her composure. She threw her cardigan on, flipped her hair, and sneered. Honestly, Lauren, maybe you should look in the mirror. Victor has been suffocating with you for years. You control everything in this house, from the groceries to his wallet. What man wants to live like an employee? Under his own wife? I turned to her, my voice completely flat. Are you done? Mia pursed her lips. I raised my phone, pointing the lens right at her face. You are standing in my bedroom, next to my husband, after breaking into my home, using a passcode. If you have more to say, go ahead. State your full name, title, and company while you're at it. Mia's face flushed scarlet. She turned away quickly. Stop filming me! I'm filming my house. You chose to walk into the frame. Victor jumped up and reached for my phone. I stepped back. Touch me again and see what happens. My eyes must have looked unhinged because he froze. The room was dead silent, save for the hum of the AC. I panned the camera one. Last time the closet, the shoes, the sheets, the unplugged cord, every frame burned into my phone's storage and my memory. Then I looked at Victor. From this second on, do not call me your wife. The woman who is your wife died the moment I opened that closet door. Mia bent down to grab her stilettos. She was trying to act tough, but her hands were trembling so violently her fake nails caught on the straps. Victor stood, paralyzed by the bed, staring at me, then at the phone, as if hoping hitting stop record would rewind time. Take your things and get out of my house, I told Mia. She bit her lip, grabbed her cream tote bag by the closet, but because she was rushing, the strap hooked onto the closet door handle. She yanked it hard, and the clasp burst open. The bag crashed to the hardwood floor, spilling its contents: lipstick, a wallet, a travel perfume, a portable charger, and a thick manila folder slid out, stopping right at my toes. I don't know why, but amidst the chaos of catching my husband cheating, my eyes locked onto that folder. Written in black Sharpie on the tab was West Loop, Condo, Signpost Trip. I bent down to pick it up. Mia lunged forward. Don't touch my stuff! I looked up at her. Your stuff? It says my condo on it. She froze. Victor's face drained of color so fast he looked translucent. He stepped forward, his voice panicked. Lauren, give that to me. It has nothing to do with you. I took a step back and flipped the folder open. The first page was a photocopy of the deed to our condo. The next page was a scanned copy of my driver's license. Then came a sheet of paper filled with practice signatures. Next to the signatures were notes written in blue ink. L. Sweeps up on the end, curve the loop on the D. My heart felt like it was being crushed in a vice. I heard my own voice, small and faint. What is this, Victor? He licked his lips, his eyes darting around. I was just preparing options. Nothing happened. I flipped to the next document. It was a blank power of attorney for a home. Equity line of credit. It authorized Victor Vance to act on my behalf to secure a loan against the property. The signature line was blank. I dug further and found a black USB drive with a sticker that read HELOC, $100K. Tucked beside it was a business card for Tyler Reed, financial consultant, with a sticky note attached. Get signatures after she gets back from Denver, or forge if needed. I laughed, a horrible, grating laugh that didn't even sound like me. The business trip wasn't just an opportunity for him to bring a woman to my bed. It was a window to prep a six-figure loan against my home. Victor reached out, pleading. Lauren, listen to me. I'm drowning in debt. I just needed a bridge loan. I was going to pay it back as soon as my investments hit. I didn't forge anything yet. I stared at the paperwork. This condo was bought with my parents' savings. It was bought with late nights editing videos till 2 a.m., skipping vacations, eating leftovers. He took the home we built and put it on a platter for a predatory loan. Suddenly, Victor's tone shifted. He stopped begging. His jaw clenched, and his voice turned harsh. My name is on the deed too. I have a right to leverage my own assets for business. Stop acting like you're the only one who matters in this marriage. I stared at him for a long, quiet moment. Leverage your assets? Or leverage me? Into debt? The room went dead silent. Mia, who had been cowering, suddenly found her voice. Again. She hugged her ruined bag and smirked. Lauren, every man needs capital. To grow. You hold the leash too tight. Victor had to find another way. Successful women always think they're right about everything. I turned to her. You're awfully young to be this practiced at being a parasite. Mia's face turned bright red. Victor yelled, Lauren, don't insult her! I looked at him. It was almost fascinating. His wife was standing in front of him holding a fraudulent loan packet against her own home, and he was stepping up to defend his mistress's honor. Life writes better satire than TV. I raised my phone and recorded close-ups of every document. The deed, my ID, the Glane, forged practice signatures, the blank POA, the USB drive, Tyler's business card. Then I panned back to the unplugged camera, the disabled smoke detector, the bill. Victor lunged and tried to swat the phone. Enough. Stop recording. I backed up, my spine hitting the bedroom doorframe, keeping the phone steady. Try to take it. The video is backing up to the iCloud as we speak. Break the phone and you just owe me $1,000 on top of everything else. He stopped. It was the first time that day he truly looked at me not as the passive, forgiving Lauren who hated conflict, but as someone cornered who was fighting back. I looked at Mia. Get out. I am keeping this folder because it contains my stolen personal information and my property records. Mia opened her mouth to argue, but Victor grabbed her arm. Just go. She ripped her arm away. You're telling me to go? This is your fault, you said. She was going to Denver for 2 days. You said the paperwork would be submitted before she got back. Now you get caught and you throw me under the bus? Victor looked like he had been shot, every word out of her mouth hammered, to another nail into the coffin of his lies. It was all timed. The flight, the empty house, the cameras, the paperwork. If I hadn't checked the camera to look at a cat, I would have come home 2 days later, unpacked my bags, and been completely unaware that a $100,000 lien was about to be placed on my life. Mia gathered her broken bag and stormed out. Before she left the bedroom, she shot me a glare filled with fear and venom. I didn't care. A woman who walks into my house using a passcode given by my husband doesn't get a polite goodbye. The front door slammed shut. The condo was dead quiet. Victor rubbed his face with both hands. Lauren, I was in over my head. I owed money. I was terrified you'd look down on me. I looked at him. So you decided to make me your co-debtor without my consent. You planned it. He choked. He had no defense. I hugged the manila folder to my chest, walked to the living room, and sat on the floor by the coffee table. Peanut crept out from under the sofa, his fur puffed up, looking at me with wide green eyes. I picked him up and buried my lullaby, a face in his fur. Victor was still in the bedroom, pacing, calling. Someone, probably Tyler, arguing in hushed, panicked tones. My tears finally fell, but they weren't hot or angry. They were cold, silent, and final. Outside, the sun was shining over Chicago, but inside my house, the lights had permanently gone out. The silence that followed Mia's departure was deafening. The slam of the front door felt like a judge's gavel coming down on my marriage. Victor walked into the living room, his shirt still unbuttoned improperly. He looked at the folder, in my lap, then at me. His eyes were red, but I couldn't tell if it was from shame, fear, or panic that his heist had failed. Lauren, can we please just sit down and talk? I held Peanut tighter and didn't answer. He took a step closer. I know I messed up, but you have to let me explain. I didn't want to hurt you. I was desperate. My voice was ice. People who are desperate ask their wives for help. They don't bring their mistress home, unplug the cameras, and forge power of attorney papers. He froze, rubbing his temples. Don't call her my mistress. It sounds so ugly. I let out a harsh laugh. What should I call her? Your real estate co-conspirator who sleeps on our sheets? He went silent. The living room, which used to smell like fresh coffee and laundry, was tainted with the cloying scent of her perfume drifting from the first hallway. I set Peanut down, grabbed the folder and the USB drive, and walked straight to my home office. Victor followed me. "Lauren, what are you doing?" I didn't look back to see how far he was willing to sell my life down the river. I went inside and locked the door. He knocked twice, softly. "Open the door." "Please, we're married. We can figure this out." I leaned against the door, the word married tasting like ash in my mouth. When he needed a bailout, I was his wife. When he needed an ego boost, I was an ego obstacle. The versatility of men in casting their wives in whatever role suits their narrative is truly Oscar-worthy. I booted up my old backup laptop one, disconnected from our shared iCloud and bank accounts. My hands shook as I plugged in the USB. A few folders popped up. Appraisal, deed copies, POA drafts. I opened the first PDF. It was a loan application for $100,000. The collateral was listed as the West Loop condo, owned by Victor Vance and Lauren Davis. The purpose of the loan was listed as business expansion, debt consolidation. Debt consolidation. That $50,000 hole he dug was neatly packaged in corporate jargon, clean as a whistle. I opened the folder labeled signatures. There were high-res photos of my lake, signature cropped from the original closing documents, my car loan, and a random HOA agreement. Next to them were digital notes on how to replicate my handwriting. My scalp prickled. The infidelity broke my heart. But this terrified me. A cold, calculating fear. This wasn't a mistake. It was a premeditated financial assassination. Outside the door, Victor pleaded. "Lauren, open up. I haven't signed anything on your behalf yet. I swear to God." I stared at the screen and yelled back. "You haven't done it because I came home early." He went quiet for a few seconds, then his tone shifted to annoyance. "You always think the worst of me. I was going to get the loan, pay off the debts, make a return on the business, and pay the HELOC off. The condo would still be ours. Stop acting like I was selling the place out from under you." I opened the POA folder. The document was fully drafted, granting Victor full authority to encumber the property. The signature line was blank, but my printed name was waiting underneath. Tears hit my keyboard. Not tears of weakness, but of profound, suffocating betrayal. I remembered the day we moved in, Victor, holding me in the empty living room saying, "You never have to worry about a roof over your head again." And now, he was treating that roof like an ATM to fund his lies. The last file was a screenshot of a text thread with Tyler Reed. Tyler wrote, "Make sure you get the doc signed while she's in Denver. We close as soon as she lands." I sat there, paralyzed. Victor's voice came through the door again, softer now. "Babe, I'm terrified you'll leave me. I owe 50 grand. I don't know what to do. Mia just introduced me to a guy who could help." I was stupid, but I was trying. To save our life. I wiped my face. "You tried to save our life by taking out a second mortgage on it? When were you going to tell me? After the money was gone?" He didn't answer. I logged into our shared bank account on my phone. I hadn't checked the credit card statement in weeks. I filtered the transactions. Sephora, $120. The Drake Hotel, $350. Silk sheets, $400. Dinners, Ubers, gifts. Over $3,000 spent in the last 2 months. I stared at the numbers, my chest physically aching, not because of the money itself. I had handed his sister $1,000 without blinking. I had bought his mother an iPad without asking for a dime. But every single dollar in this joint account spent on another woman in my own bed felt like a physical slap to the face. Victor was still talking outside. "Open the door, Lauren. We've been together a decade. You can't throw that away over one mistake." "One mistake?" I said. "Do you know how many steps are in your one mistake? A mistress, a keypad code, a disabled smoke detector, unplugged cameras, a forged signature folder, a shady loan broker. That's a lot of logistics for one mistake." He fell silent for a long time. Then, his patience finally snapped. "You always blow things out of proportion. Women love making a tragedy out of nothing." I closed my eyes. That sentence killed the very last ounce of pity I had for him. My dad used to say, Trust broken once is trust broken forever. When I was younger, I thought that was cynical. Sitting in front of the glow of my laptop, I understood it. You can glue a shattered glass back together, but it will never to hold water the same way again. I spent the next hour working quickly. I backed up the entire USB onto a secure cloud drive. I forwarded the camera footage, the Ring video, and the documents to a new private email address. Then, I opened my filing cabinet. For the first time in 10 years, I took the original deed to the condo, our mortgage, documents, my passport, my birth certificate, and my separate savings info, and shoved them into a heavy canvas tote bag. I pulled up my banking app. I instantly locked the joint credit card Victor carried. I changed the password to my primary checking account, set up two-factor authentication, and removed his access to the smart home system, deleting his keypad code. When I hit confirm on the lock app, my fingers shook. Not out of regret, but from the terrifying realization that I was officially severing my safety net and stepping out into the unknown. Peanut sat by the door watching me. I knelt down and scratched behind his ears. "Be a good boy, Peanut. I'll be back for you." He purred, leaning into my hand. My eyes burned. I was leaving the home I built, fleeing like a refugee from my own life. I took a piece of printer paper and wrote a single sentence. From now on, all communication will be in writing. No yelling, no paragraphs of closure, no fighting. Anger and grief are both dangerous when you need to be strategic. I opened the door and rolled my suitcase out. Victor had fallen asleep on the sofa, his phone resting on his chest. Seeing him look so exhausted, a tiny, pathetic part of me still felt a pang of sorrow. 10 years is a long time. You don't just amputate a limb without phantom pain. But then I looked down the hall. At the master bedroom, the door was still open. The gold sheets were still tangled. The phantom pain vanished, replaced by freezing clarity. As I walked toward the front door, the wheels of my suitcase woke him. He bolted up, his eyes bloodshot. "Where are you going?" I didn't look back. To a safe place. He scrambled off the couch and blocked the front door. "Lauren, don't do this. We can talk." I stared at him. "We are done talking. Let the paperwork do the talking." He looked down at the canvas tote bag holding the documents. His face tightened. "Are you taking the deed? That house is in my name too." I nodded. "Yes, it is. Which is exactly why I need to make sure you don't commit fraud with it." He reached out to grab my suitcase handle. I locked my eyes on his hand. "Touch me or my bags and I will scream for the police right now." Victor froze. I think it was the first time he realized I was no longer the Lauren who was terrified of causing a scene. I opened the door, dragged my bags into the hallway, and let the door click shut behind me. That small mechanical click sounded like a steel cable snapping. Down in the garage, Bob the concierge saw me with my bags. He looked concerned. "Lauren? Leaving so early?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, staying with a friend for a bit, Bob. If anyone asks, I left on my own accord. Nobody forced me." Bob studied my face, then nodded slowly. "Got it. You need anything, you call. Down to the desk, okay? I've worked in buildings a long time. I know who the good ones are." That simple, mundane interaction almost made me break down. I took an Uber to my best friend Ashley's place in Lincoln Park. When she opened the door, she took one look at my face and hauled me inside. She didn't ask, "Are you sure?" She didn't say, "Have you thought this through?" She didn't give me any of that toxic marriage takes compromise garbage. Ashley just pointed to the couch. "Put the bags down. Wash your face. If you collapse now, the bastard wins." I sat on her rug and finally sobbed. I cried like someone who had been holding their breath underwater for a decade. Ashley let me cry for a good 10 minutes, before sliding a box of tissues across the floor. "Cry it out, but when you're done, we get to work. He didn't just cheat on you, Lauren. He tried to turn you into his collateral." I handed her the USB and the folder. Ashley booted up her laptop and scrolled through the files. Her jaw locked. "Oh my God, this isn't just an affair. Lauren, this is financial abuse. They were paving a highway right over your credit score." She created a secure folder on her drive. She backed up the Ring footage, the bedroom video, the USB files, the bank statements. "Should I post this on Facebook?" I asked, my voice raw. Burn his life down? Ashley looked at me like I was insane. No. I know you're furious, but if you post this, his lawyers will spin it into a defamation and revenge porn case. Do you want to win? You don't play for 5 minutes of internet clout. You play the long game. I nodded. It hurt to hear, but she was right. My phone started vibrating. Violently. Victor calling. Then my mother-in-law, Barbara. Then a text from his sister, Natalie. Lauren, what the hell did you do? Victor is having a panic attack. The whole family is freaking out. I turned on Do Not Disturb and put the phone face down. Ashley nodded in approval. Exactly. Don't engage. They have more people to yell at you, but we have the receipts. I sat back, staring at the ceiling. An image flashed in my mind of Victor, years ago in our crappy apartment, splitting his last piece of chicken with me. That man used to exist. And because he used to exist, the grief was so heavy. I miss the guy he used to be, Ash, I whispered. She sighed, her voice softening. Mourn the ghost, Lauren, but don't let the man he is today destroy you. She handed me a mug of hot tea. Drink. This afternoon, we're going to see Marcus Quinn. He's a shark of a family lawyer. We aren't fighting this with tears anymore. I held the warm mug in both hands. Outside Ashley's window, the city was roaring to life. Commuters, buses, sirens. The world was utterly indifferent to the fact that my life had just imploded. But sitting there, for the first time since yesterday morning, I didn't feel like I was drowning. That afternoon, Ashley drove me to a law office downtown in the Loop. It wasn't flashy or overly corporate, just a clean, quiet suite of offices. Exactly what I needed. After the circus my home had become, I craved order. Marcus Quinn came out to greet us. He was in his 40s, sharp, wearing wire-rimmed glasses, and spoke with a calm, methodical cadence. Lauren, have a seat. Don't worry about structuring your thoughts. Just walk me through the timeline. His calm demeanor anchored me. Ashley placed the canvas bag and the folder on the table. Marcus, it's not just infidelity. We found loan documents, forged, signatures, and POA drafts. Marcus didn't immediately react. He put on a pair of thin gloves and carefully reviewed the documents. The photocopy of my deed, the blank power of attorney, the USB drive, the ring video, the bedroom footage. I watched him inspect the evidence, feeling sick to my stomach. Everything on that table was a thorn, pulled from my side. What time did the camera drop offline? He asked. Around 9 a.m., I checked it at the airport. The app showed it was online, but the feed was dead. The smoke alarm was manually disabled shortly after. And the passcode used by the woman? My husband's code. We deactivated the guest code months ago. Marcus wrote it down. He plugged the USB into a standalone laptop. He scrolled through the files, his face hardening when he saw the signature practice sheet. Lauren, I'm going to be blunt. This elevates beyond a standard divorce proceeding. This borders on attempted wire fraud and identity theft. My throat tightened. What can they do to me? Currently, nothing, because the loan hasn't been executed or dispersed. That's your saving grace. But the fact that they have your ID, the deed, and are practicing your signature means they were prepping a private lender. We need to lock the gates immediately. He pulled out a legal pad. Step 1. We draft an immediate freeze notice to the bank holding your primary mortgage and a preemptive fraud alert to the major credit bureaus. You explicitly state that no HELOC, secondary mortgage, or modification can be approved without your physical presence. And verbal verification. Ashley chimed in. Will the bank actually honor that? Yes. It's a recorded fraud alert. We lock the door before the house catches fire. Step 2. Gather the paper trail of your down payment. You said your parents provided the funds? Yes. I need the wire transfers, the sale documents of their land, and ideally, a signed letter from them stating the money was a gift specifically to you. Step 3. Zero contact with Victor alone. Do not sign anything. Not a mediation. Agreement, not a release, nothing. I asked, what if his mother comes after me? Marcus set his pen down. You can be polite, but you owe no one your financial security under the guise of respecting your elders. Let them talk. You hold the line. I thought of Barbara, She had called me 5 times already. Right on cue, my phone lit up. Barbara Vance. Ashley pointed to it. Speaker. Record it. I hit record and answered. Hello, Barbara. Her voice exploded through the speaker, bypassing any pleasantries. Lauren, what do you think you're doing? You leave the house, lock Victor out of the credit cards, and steal the house papers? Do you want to humiliate my son in front of everyone? I closed my eyes, took a breath, and spoke calmly. Barbara, I don't want a scene, but the documents pertain to me and my property, so I am securing them. She scoffed. Securing what? You're married. That's his house too. He just needs to leverage it for some business capital. Why are you suffocating him? A good wife supports her husband when things get tough. She doesn't hoard the money. And run. My heart dropped into my stomach. You knew? You knew he was trying to take a loan out against the condo without telling me? The line hesitated, just for a microsecond, but it was enough. She recovered. Quickly. He's just trying to float his business. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Women who abandon their husbands over money never end up happy? Lauren, I'm not abandoning him over money, Barbara. I'm leaving so I don't get destroyed by his fraud. I hung up. The room was silent. Ashley let out a long breath. Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the toxic tree. Marcus saved the recording to his file. Good. That establishes familial knowledge of the financial motive. From now on, anyone who calls you say, please direct all communications to my attorney. I signed the fraud alert notices Marcus drafted. My signature felt different. This time, it wasn't signing my life away. It was drawing the first boundary, line to protect it. I barely slept that night. The next morning, Ashley and I were having coffee. When her building intercom buzzed, she answered, and her face darkened. I'll be right down, she turned to me. Your mother-in-law and sister-in-law are in my lobby. They're telling the doorman I'm harboring a runaway wife. I stood up, feeling a surge of cold adrenaline. I'm going down. Are you sure? Let me handle it, Ashley said. No, this is my fight. But come with me. When the elevator doors opened to the lobby, Barbara was already yelling, call her down. She thinks she can just abandon her marriage and hide? Natalie stood, next to her, phone in hand, looking ready to film a TikTok expose. I walked up, keeping my posture completely straight. Hello, Barbara. Natalie. Barbara spun around, pointing a finger at me. You still know how to show your face? You leave Victor spiraling, you freeze his accounts. Who do you think you are? I am someone protecting myself, I said. And I froze my own accounts. I've paid his sister's bills. I've paid your bills, Barbara. I think I've done enough. Natalie stepped up, recording on her phone. You're a sociopath, Lauren. Victor is a wreck, and you're just worried about money. Say it to the camera. Ashley stepped in front of me, glaring at Natalie. You're recording on private property in my building. Post a single frame of this, and I will sue you for harassment and have you trespassed. Put the phone down. Natalie hesitated and lowered the phone. I looked at Barbara, surrounded by a few nosy neighbors waiting for the elevator. Barbara, if you want to know why I left, ask Victor about the woman he brought into my bed. Ask him about the disabled cameras. Ask him about the forged signature practicing on my title. Documents to take out a $100,000 loan behind my back. The lobby went dead silent. The neighbors suddenly found the floor very interesting. Barbara's face flushed purple. You're lying. Men make mistakes. You're just trying to ruin his life because you're greedy. I looked her dead in the eye. I'm not ruining his life. I'm just refusing to. Let him use me as a human shield anymore. If he wants the paperwork, he can call my lawyer. I turned and walked back to the elevator with Ashley. Behind me, Barbara was stammering, but she had lost her audience. 3 days later, I was living in a state of high alert. Every notification made me jump. That morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Hi, is this Lauren Davis? This is Chloe from Chase Bank, regarding the mortgage on your West Loop property. Could you come into the branch today? We have a flagged inquiry we need to verify. My blood ran cold. What kind of inquiry? A third party initiated a HELOC application using your property details. Since you filed a preemptive fraud alert, the system froze it, but we need you to sign an affidavit. Who initiated it? I asked. A broker named Tyler Reed. It was real. They had actually tried to pull the trigger. Ashley drove me to the 20N's bank, and Marcus met us there. We sat in a sterile glass office. Chloe showed us the preliminary application. It was incomplete, but the intention was undeniable. They filed this yesterday, Chloe said gently. Because of your alert, it flagged immediately. Mr. Reed claimed you were out of town and he had a power of attorney on file. We demanded you be present. I placed my physical ID on the desk. I wanted on record that I deny any and all authorization for Tyler Reed or Victor Vance to alter this mortgage. Walking out of that bank, I felt a strange mix of terror and triumph. They tried, and they failed. I checked my phone. A text from Mia. You hold on too. Tight, Lauren. That's why he looked elsewhere. You should really reflect on yourself. I didn't reply. I just screenshotted it and sent it to Marcus. Ashley laughed grimly. This girl is a gift to our legal strategy. She just keeps providing written evidence. The next day, I rented a car and drove upstate to see my parents. The drive through the Hudson Valley was beautiful, the trees fully green, but my heart was heavy. I hadn't told them yet. When I pulled up to their house, my mom was on the porch. She saw me and froze. Lauren, why are you here on a Tuesday? I forced a smile, but my face gave it away. She dried her hands on her apron and pulled me inside. David! Lauren's home. My dad walked out of his workshop, wiping grease off his hands. He took one look at me and said, go sit at the kitchen table. Mom made a quick lunch, grilled cheese and tomato soup. Comfort food. I sat at the table picking at the crust. Mom, Dad, Victor and I, it's over. My mom gasped. Dad sat down across from me, his eyes dark. Tell me. I told them everything. The intern in the closet, the unplugged cameras, the $100,000 loan documents, the forged signatures. Mom started crying, covering her mouth. My God, how could he do this to you? She came over and hugged me. She didn't tell me to work it out. She didn't tell me about the sanctity of marriage. She just held me and said, I'm so sorry he tricked you, baby. We've got you. Dad stood up without a word and went into his study. He came back 5 minutes later with a battered fireproof lockbox. He unlocked it and pulled out a stack of papers. I knew there might be a day we needed this. He laid them on the table. The original deed of sale for the family cabin, the bank wire transfer receipt for $50,000, and a notarized letter signed by both my parents and myself from years ago. This sum is a direct gift to our daughter, Lauren Davis, for the purchase of her primary residence, separate from any marital assets. I stared at it, stunned. Dad, you kept this? You had this notarized? He looked at me, his jaw set. I'm old school, Lauren, but I'm not stupid. You. Protect your blood. Always leave a back door open. I broke down. I cried onto the documents, realizing that my parents' cautious, too love had just saved my financial life. My dad put a rough, calloused hand on my shoulder. You cry today. Tomorrow, you fight. You don't let a thief take what's yours. Armed with my dad's documents, we hit Victor with a hurricane. A week later, Victor came to Marcus's office for a settlement meeting. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, his suit was wrinkled, and he looked like a cornered rat. Marcus laid out the terms. Lauren retains 100% equity of the condo. She assumes the remaining mortgage. Given the verifiable down payment gift from her parents, the paper trail of her making 90% of the mortgage payments, and the evidence of your financial misconduct, specifically the attempt to encumber the property with a fraudulent HELOC via Tyler Reed, we consider this a generous offer to avoid civil litigation. Victor slammed his hand on the table. That's my house too. I'm on the deed. You can't just take everything. I looked at him. You took $3,000 from our joint account to buy hotel rooms, Sephora, and $400 sheets for your mistress. You tried to forge my name for $100,000. You don't get to talk about what's fair. He glared at me. You think you're so smart. I'm not signing anything. He stormed out. But Victor didn't have leverage anymore. His company launched an internal investigation after rumors spread. They found out Mia had been feeding confidential bid pricing to competing vendors, one of whom was connected to Tyler Reed. Victor was suspended, then fired. Mia was terminated immediately. Tyler. Reed's brokerage came under federal investigation for predatory lending practices. A few days later, a mutual friend called me, panicking. Lauren, Victor texted, "Write me a suicide note." He said he's ending it all. "You need to go to the condo." My blood ran cold. Despite everything, I didn't want him dead. I called Marcus. "Do not go alone," Marcus commanded. "Call the Chicago PD for a wellness check. Wait in the lobby with the concierge." I drove to the building. The police arrived and we went up to the 8th floor. The door was unlocked. We walked in. Victor was lying on the sofa, eyes closed, and ullable. Empty bottle of Ambien on the coffee table. But right next to the pill bottle were neatly stacked papers and a pen. An officer checked his pulse. "He's fine. Heart rate is completely normal." Victor fluttered his eyes open, doing a terrible acting job. "Lauren, you came." I looked at the neatly stacked papers. It was a quitclaim deed giving him 50% of the condo's cash value upon sale and a non-disclosure agreement stating I wouldn't press charges for the loan fraud. Suddenly, the bathroom door opened. Tyler Reed walked out, carrying a briefcase. He looked shocked to see the police. I backed up, disgusted. "You staged a suicide attempt to try and guilt me into signing away my house with your shady broker standing by?" The cops immediately started questioning Tyler. Victor sat up, realizing his manipulation had spectacularly backfired. The police took the paperwork into evidence. The fake suicide attempt didn't win my sympathy. It just handed my lawyer the final nail for his coffin. Victor eventually signed the divorce papers. He had no money to fight, no job, and Marcus made it clear that if he contested the house, we would hand the fraud evidence to the district attorney. The day it was finalized, he looked at me in the courthouse hallway. "Do you really feel nothing for me anymore?" I looked at him. "I feel a lot for the man who used to share ramen with me, but that man is dead, and I don't owe ghosts anything." I changed the locks on the condo. I threw away the bed, the mattress, the gold sheets. I painted the walls a bright, clean white. Peanut moved back in, sniffing the corners before hopping onto the windowsill to sleep in the sun. I threw myself into work. My agency landed a massive contract, and I got a promotion. I sent a chunk of my bonus to my parents to fix their wraparound porch. I traded in my old sedan for a compact SUV, not to show off, but to remind myself that I was the one driving my life now. Marcus, my lawyer, eventually asked me out for coffee. He was kind, respectful, and steady, but I declined. "Thank you, Marcus, but right now, I don't need a man to save me. I just need to enjoy the peace I saved for myself." He smiled and respected my boundary. Months later, I was at O'Hare again for another business trip. Before boarding, I opened my smart home app. The camera feed loaded instantly. The living room was bathed in golden afternoon sunlight. Peanut was asleep on the rug, his tail flicking lazily. No strange perfumes, no shadows in the closet, just peace. I smiled, locked my phone, and walked toward my gate. Women can love deeply, and we can sacrifice greatly, but never, ever hand over the keys to your financial survival to someone else. Trust is a beautiful thing, but a boundary is a necessary one. If you hand someone a knife, you can't be surprised when you bleed. A betrayer might steal a chapter of your life, but you never have to let them write the ending. If you found this story meaningful, please like and subscribe. Remember to protect your peace, and more importantly, protect your independence. Until next time, take care of yourselves.